across the world. So that's how it's going to be. It's going to be, we're looking at unfolding national issues, and we'll delve into the media and thereafter. But let's start this way, Prince Adedeji. It's 3 days now, thereabouts, after our independence. But congratulations is still in order, isn't it?
It is.
All right, Nigeria is celebrating 63 years of independence. However, in the last couple of years, there has been this debate by several schools of thought who are divided over whether we should be celebrating this birthday. Some have even called it a yearly ritual. What's your position on this, on celebrating the independence anniversary?
Thank you very much. The fact is that there's nothing wrong in doing that, whether in a dull moment or active moment, so to say. The moment a child is born, it is necessary to celebrate that child annually, even if the child is a physically challenged person. That doesn't mean you put him aside or her aside or neglect him. You still need to celebrate him or her, so that that will serve as a way of encouraging that child that there is still hope for you. So there's nothing wrong, though we may have number of challenges and difficulties, but notwithstanding at our own level. That is why at times we call it low-key celebration. It's as a result of what we are facing, what hardship period we are experiencing. So nothing wrong, as much as if it were to be a situation where things are going on smoothly, then you can roll out drums and celebrate heavily, and whatever way that people will know that yes, they deserve doing this. But in this situation, it has to be a low key. You just have to, for example, some state governments, they decided to even cancel it, or what it is that prayers privately, and there wasn't any fanfare. So I'm aware of that. Some states did that. So it's as a sort of the dull moment, so to say.
Okay, stretching this discussion further, over the years, historians and even the media, sometimes when you look at our history, some observers still insist that the Nigerian Union as it is was not meant to work in the first place, that this was just a marriage that was designed to fail. But 63 years on, the country is still together.
You are talking about, if I got you right, you are talking about amalgamation.
Yes.
1914. Let me say this in a very comical way, but it is also very meaningful. In the course of my investigation, which I have been asking question on it, whether that was true or not, I was told that it was a mistress of Lugard who gave Nigeria a name. When a mistress christen a child, there are a lot of advantages and disadvantages there. So if a mistress you name Nigeria, you know what that means. So if that story is correct, to a level, it may be a sort of, it may be as a result of that development that we're having these challenges. And don't forget the fact that when we talk about that amalgamation, I still want to believe it was a marriage of inconveniences. But that's where we find ourselves. And it's like a husband and wife living at home, whether you like it or not. There's no perfect marriage. It depends on the couple, how you are able to manage it, how you are able to handle it effectively. There will be always crisis, there will be always scuffle, but you have to exhibit maturity. Now that we have found ourselves in this situation of inconveniences marriage for 63 years, there's a popular saying in Yoruba land, the meaning is that a corpse inside the grave for 3 years is not a stranger in that grave again. So we should be able to get used to each other and manage each other. Unfortunately, along the line, we have some disturbing development. We are rather for us to move forward positively. This verse has been the case. I can cite some examples that is very bothering.
Okay. Before we even go to that, we're talking about the huge complexity of the Nigerian state, for example, the diversity. Some people believe this diversity really is a challenge for us as a country. But should it not really be a huge advantage for us?
It should be. But I'm always a very blunt and frank person. And I said this number of times. When the head of a fish is rotting, the entire body is gone. What am I trying to say? What has been the genuine role of the leadership
over the years?
That is something that is very important. When the leadership fail to do well, what do we expect from the followership? Look, Nigeria as a country is being appreciated outside this our country. But unfortunately, those who are appreciating us doesn't know what we are passing through. I was in Kenya sometimes early this year. I spent about 3-4 days there, and I made some friends there. But funny enough, while I was about leaving, I saw some of them who approached me. They were eager to come to Nigeria. Even some of them asked me that I should help them they want to just come and visit Nigeria. And you don't just spread your dirty clothes outside. So I have to manage this situation because I am aware of what we are facing here. They were not in the know, but being a giant of Africa, and if Nigerian cough in African continent, it will shake the entire continent. And they envy us, they appreciate us, but unfortunately, what we are passing, my expectation as of today is that Nigeria should have been United States of Africa because of the size, because of the exposure, because of the advantages across the globe. Name a country in this world that you not find Nigerians doing well there. But it's always very painful that we are still at this level of rather than moving forward positively. Something looks like a stagnant situation. But I believe God will bail us out. Even if not my generation, maybe generation after us, I know this country will still survive.
Okay. Listening to you, I have a feeling that over the years, you say we've not been able to get our leadership question right.
Yeah.
But how do we go about this? Is this something that we will continue to mourn about, or we need to take the bold step to correct?
I like this popular saying that when God says yes, nobody can say no. From my own perspective of everything, one day I believe, I'm convinced, the God will strike. When I say strike, it will change everything in a way that will be happy. The God who is having loved this country, if you put into consideration what we have passed through in terms of crisis in this country, if not for God, there will be a story that there was a country called Nigeria. But we are still surviving. It means there's still hope. It means God still loves us. So, and I pray that those who are leading us, God will also touch their hearts. It is something that is worrisome. I have noticed that many of our leadership, they do that for what I would call selfish interest. Because I don't know why you cannot do the needful in terms of getting the welfare of your citizens as paramount to you.
Okay, we've spoken a lot about the leadership. What about the citizens?
The followership.
The followership. Say God will do this. Yes, we are a very religious country, but we also need to take a step of faith, as some people will say. We also need to take the destiny of the country into our hands as citizens. Yeah. Call out our leaders, hold them responsible. Where do we start?
There was a proverb I used. I said, when the head of a fish is rotting, the entire body is definitely gone. Yes, followership, they have their own shortcomings, their own faults. I agree with you. However, when the leadership is ready to crush you at all costs, there is a portion in the Bible that said, talk about wisdom. Unfortunately, for those who are to be bold enough to take government up on its responsibility, the leadership on their responsibility, you'll be surprised that because of fear, that is one. Then two, they are always mole within them as well. And that may be very difficult to achieve what we are saying, except to leave this to God, who I believe when God says yes, nobody can say no. So I still believe there is hope, but I'm emphasizing this. If that hope failed to come during in my generation, I still believe it will come. But I think there is a need for us to know that, particularly our leadership, that this sovereign is getting too much. Look, in my secondary school days, I always relate this story to whoever care to listen to me. Even my children, I told them. When I was in secondary school, my pocket money was 20 kobo. With that 20 kobo, I would have purchased all what I needed in my hostel, in terms of beverages. In that 20 kobo, while having get all those things purchased, I was making savings within that 20 kobo. That savings, when I got to Form 3, the savings from that 20 kobo, I used it to buy a rally bicycle. Form 3, which I was riding to school, come back home during that period. That was 20 kobo.
But the 20 kobo then too was big money.
It was big money, but at the same time, there's comfort. I said, as a student, then don't forget that period, even when you finish secondary school, you have opportunity to get jobs in 5-6 places. It is you that will decide which of this job you want to take. But contrary is the situation now in this course, where somebody finished university, a child who's at home, before that person gained admission to university and completed his course, finished, served, come back home after that, a child who was still probably in primary school, when he got admission to higher institution as well, and eventually becomes a graduate, you will be shocked that child will still meet the person who had earlier finished years ago, still looking for work.
All right. Okay. Well, if you're just joining us, it's still Insights on Citizen FM 93.7. And my guest has been Prince Dimeji Kayode Adedeji. He's a publisher, he's a very senior journalist, practitioner in the field. And I've been trying to pick his brains on some issues concerning our nation, Nigeria. Well, Insight will take a short break. When we return, we will look at the media industry. We will look at fake news. We will look at misinformation and other issues surrounding this. Please don't go away. Insight will return in a moment.
Wake up.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. It's still Insights on Citizen FM 93.7. My name is Lawrence Sumoite. Welcome to the second half of the program. The phone lines are now open. You can call us on 0903 2229797. That's 0903 2229797. You can also call us on 0818 222205 or 0818-2222 206. Any of these numbers, you can call us. You can also send us a WhatsApp message on any of the numbers to ask question or make a comment. My guest is Prince Dimeji Kayode Adedeji. He is a publisher. He's a founder of Pen Pushing Media. He's also a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors and also other platforms in the media industry. Prince, thank you for staying tuned. Let's look at familiar terrain now, the media industry. And I want to start this way. The online media, the social media, the internet, everything concerning the media on that platform have been subject of discussion over the years. There's so much to talk about. Matters arising. Now, let's look. The immediate impression a lot of people have is, when they hear somebody is running an online media platform, those purveyors of fake news. Those are the people who carry fake news. Those are the people who make fake news popular. You are a member of the Guild of Corporate Online Publishers. So that means you are an interested party in that platform. You also are a voice on that platform. What will you describe? How would you describe this impression, this perception of the online platforms?
Thank you very much. It's very disheartening that people they are yet to differentiate between online media and online media. How do I mean? But with time, they will get there. For everybody that has a phone now, they see themselves as a journalist and do recordings, do posting, and some people believe in these materials, thinking they are journalists. They are not. So, what am I trying to say is that readers should also be cautious of what they read. There are certain things that even if you see it or you read it, you should be able to, within you should be able to identify that this is nothing but fake. But even if it is difficult to do that, it is a matter of time. And then let me say this as well. The only recognized online media organization is the Guild of Corporate Online Publishers. I repeat, that's the only recognized organization that has to do with online publication. It involves formidable media practitioners who have one way or the other seen it all in the media industry. So we have our own guidelines, principles that we should ensure that anything that has to do with fake news should be not part of our responsibility. So, there are some of those online that people see as online, but I describe them as gutter online. They just mold one or two things together, spread it. It's not helpful to us, and I do say this every time. Fake news it's not that it can destroy, it will destroy the person behind it and destroy the subject matter. So,
okay,
we need to be cautious.
Please, it does look as if your organization, the body, the corporate online guild, is unable to control that platform because a lot of amateurism, if I may, a lot of other things, people don't adhere to the ethics of the profession and everything, and yet they are using that platform, the platform to do all sorts of things. Is it really possible? Can even the guild in the first place control information on the platform? Is it possible?
You mean on the social media?
Yes.
That may be online. A little bit difficult.
Yes.
Because it is everybody that have access to telephone now, and they just throw in anything to the public. I think we are working towards what you have just said. That is one. Then two, I think the other thing we should put into consideration is this. For those ones who are sending those materials, do they have any registration with CAC? So if people want to start getting them now, I think they should be more cautious, more interested in knowing whether they are registered with CAC or not. Because before CAC could register you, they must have find out that you meant well. So many of them, they should do their findings. You can't see their names or the organization being registered with CAC, which is very important. But generally, it's very difficult to make it 100%. But don't forget that Rome was not built in a day. If we start from somewhere, we'll get somewhere. So I'm optimistic that with time, people will be able to differentiate from the real online publishers and the imposters.
All right. If you're just joining us again, this is Insight, and we are talking media at this time. Misinformation, disinformation, fake news, and so many other things. And the phone lines are still open, 0903 2229 797. You can also call us on 0818 2222 205. Or you can call us on 0818 2222 206. Okay, I think we have a caller here. Oh, a drop call. Okay, you can still call us 0818-2222-206. The last call just dropped. So, and you can also send us a WhatsApp message on this. Once again, my guest is Prince Dimeji Kayode Adedeji, is the founder of Pen Pushing Media. Now, let's take a little step backward and look at the role of the media generally in our political process, especially times like this. Emotions are high, sentiments everywhere. As media men, how challenging is the role of the media during times like this?
It is challenging, but I think we as media practitioners, we should also be cautious of one vital information I want to put across. And what is that? There's something we call national interest. We must always put it at the back of our mind. Yes, in journalism, the training is that bad news is good news. Yes, it's correct. But at the same time, there are some bad news that, because of national interest, you have to be very, very careful about it. The example, I will give one example. Let us assume that there is a clash between some residents, and those who are involved are one ethnic group and another living in a settlement together. And there was a killing. Maybe that killing, when you look at the percentage, it affects an ethnic group more than other. I'm just using this as a way forward why there's national interest. And we want, as a journalist, you witness it, there was a killing of, let me say, 10 indigenes of a particular ethnic group. 10. Then you want to report. You must be very cautious how you go about that report. One, you have to report, no doubt about that. Rather than saying that 10 indigenous of so place were shot dead. Do you understand? It would have been better to write 10 died during a clash. You know why I'm saying this? If you said 10 people of certain ethnic groups were killed,
it may inflame.
Don't forget that you, in other part of the world where those people come from, you also have your own kinsmen resident there. So that can spark off a very violent reaction from the other end. And before you know it, the killing will spread more than necessary. And doing that, you are not doing that in the interest of the nation. That's why at times we consider what we call for national interest. Yes, it is good, you must report, but you must use wisdom.
Okay, some people will ask, how do we draw the line between national interest and the need for the public to be informed accurately?
No. You inform accurately. Accuracy does not mean that you should add petrol into a fire. That is not accuracy. Accuracy, good. People were killed. That is accurate enough. There are times you have to silence on the number because of this negative effect, the side effect of what we are putting to the public. So, if you report that people were killed, that is accuracy. Whether they were killed with gun, killed with machete, killing is killing. So, if you reflect that they were killed with gun, it's still accuracy. If they have with machete, it is still accuracy. But at times when you talk about number, you are endangering the lives of other people in other areas.
Okay, you've been in the media for over 30 years, and during this time, there's always this recurring debate from professionals. Is it really possible for the media to remain neutral during, for example, an electoral process?
It is possible. And the side effect of it at times has to do what we call ownership interest. Whether we like it or not, there are certain things that even if you have to report, you have to be mild over it when it comes to ownership interest. You don't expect a station being owned by the president, for example, to start attacking him. Even if there's a report, you will be mild about that report to the public.
Is that how it should be?
It is not. I said it is not. But if you go deep down in the history of journalism all over the world, there's something we call ownership interest. How many times have you seen CNN reporting something, a damaging report about America? But if they report it, they know ways and manner they do it. It's not that we won't report, but it's unfortunate. That is where we find ourselves. The truth must be told. There is what we call ownership interest. This station, you find it difficult, you in this station, to start attacking the owner of this station. Even if you have to report any of his excesses, so to say, you will also use wisdom in doing that. But you can't go with full-fledged hammer to say you are attacking the owner of this station. That is where the issue of ownership interest comes in.
Okay, yes, Prince, I understand that now. But as professionals, how do we now balance this interest on one hand and uphold the tenets of our profession on the other hand?
I've just told you that we will balance it. For example, now, somebody allege your boss. It's not enough for you to write one-sided. Your boss alleged somebody. It's not enough for you because it's your boss and said you are writing a story from his own angle alone. But if you want to be professional, having accused the other side, you as a station or as a journalist, let me use that, you have the responsibility to go to that person that has been alleged by your boss for his own side of the story. So with that, you have balanced your story. You don't say because it's your boss, whatever you have said is final. No. So that is part of how we can go about all this balancing in reportage.
All right, it's still Insight, and we are discussing in depth the media and the social media, the traditional media, and the ethics of the profession. And my guest is really doing justice to that, Prince Dimeji Kayode Adedeji, who is also a publisher. He's actually the founder of Pen Pushing Media. And Prince, now let's come back to another critical issue, and that's censorship.
Yeah.
As a publisher, as an editor, I'm sure most of the time you have found yourself in situations like that, surrounding that. Now, some people are divided on these issues. Where should censorship come from, actually? Should it be self-imposed, or should it be something that is directed from maybe an assemblage of our laws, our ethics of the profession? Or should it be both?
Censorship is criminal and unethical. You don't censor story. You don't. If you do that, you will be losing your credibility as a media organization. You don't censor story for what? You must report. And I've just explained to you. You can't detach what we call ownership interest from media. That is the bitter truth for anybody who has to listen. But that does not translate to censorship. Censorship is as good as killing a story. You don't kill story. You don't kill story. It is wrong. It is unethical. It is criminal to engage in censorship. No, censorship is as good as killing story, which is not in line with our profession. So I won't align with that idea of censorship. It is unethical. I can say it anytime.
All right, the phone lines are still open. You can call us on 0903-2229-797, or you can also call us on 0818-2222-205 or 0818-2222-206. Still on our practice, one of the complaints that we find from media professionals against institutions of government or people who run businesses, and that's the lack of timely release of information, especially from the right source. Some people have even said that sometimes this also gives rise to fake news when government officials do not release information
on time. Yeah.
In your line of duty over the years, how has this affected your performance as a journalist?
Well, by extension, it will affect, because there are some report that has to go out as early as possible. And if the government on its side, or the spokesperson, is delaying it, it will give room for what we call suspicious and agitation, particularly from the public.
Exactly.
And that will now give opportunity for some fake news carrier to start disseminating news. Then it is after that the government agency, the spokesperson, is trying to do what we call crisis management. Why must you wait till when you have crisis before you manage it? If you don't have anything to hide, as soon as anything happens, you should be able to come up with the position of the government, the agency involved. Even if it has to take time, there must be a limited number of time. Not just you start delaying things. When you there will always be agitation, either from the public, the readers, even from the journalists who wants to file a story. Don't forget that in journalism there's competition in terms of who break the news first. That is one thing. But a serious-minded reporter will not go out writing a story without balancing it. Yes, it is true that some spokesperson, some government agencies, even when you approach them, rather than for them to say the true position of things, they'll be trying to avoid talking. And there's number of hours a journalist can wait. In journalism, yes is story, no is story. Even keeping mute is story.
Even no comment.
No comment is story. So the journalist will offer opportunity to that side to say one or two things, and whatever he says, whether he says I'm not talking. It is story. If he eventually speaks out, it is story. But I will only appeal and encourage them, particularly spokesperson of government, parastatals, agency, that they should be proactive when it comes to issue like this.
Okay, for the media, even the Constitution affords us that responsibility of holding leaders to account.
Yeah.
And over the years, the media has been on the front burner. A lot of people believe that when it comes to election period or when it comes to critical times, sometimes the media should be forthcoming in terms of setting this agenda. I give you an example. When it came during the election, before the election, it was apparent that the media was struggling to set the agenda.
Yeah.
When you had political players, on the other hand, setting the agenda. But before you answer that question, let's take a short break. We will return in a moment. Please don't go away. Thank you so much for staying tuned. It's still Insights on Citizen FM 93.7. And a friend of the house just walked in, Dr. Akinriti, who is a senior colleague in the industry too, just like Prince Adedeji. Dr. Akinriti is Deputy Director Online on New Media for Voice of Nigeria. Welcome to Insight, Dr. Akinriti.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you, even though the time is short. But you are a member of the house. We were looking at the media industry as practitioners, telling ourselves the hard truth. And Prince Adedeji has been doing that, telling us the hard truth. But generally speaking, Dr. Akinriti, how do you think the Nigerian media has performed post 2023 general election?
Well, I think fairly, because one factor we have been unable, to cope with is the issue of interests. And I'm happy my colleague have talked about ownership interests, and that has affected our reportage significantly. And it happens all globally. That the picture have been painted appropriately. But what is important at the end of the day is that we must have a country before we can have a media where we practice. And so if you destroy that content, the environment, where are we going to report? What are we going to report on? And that's why the issue of, nationalism, national interest, put the nation first comes in. That whatever happens at the end of the day, it's about our country. And so we need to be passionate about it. When we're asking questions, when we are probing for best interests of the people, and we are probing in the national interests. And at the end of the day, we are also reporting so that we can safeguard, what people refer to as the credibility of that profession. That, I think, is extremely important as we move on. Because there's several examples that, we can also talk about post-election 2023. And so the media need to do house searching. And the online, the new media, is a major culprit. And that's why I'm happy with the, what GOCOP is bringing on the table. For us to have a look at it holistically, for us to see how well can we separate the chief from the chaff. It's very, very important.
Is it possible?
It's possible. Because if you are not saying you don't have a government regulation, we must have a self-regulation. Now we have an ombudsman. Now, the ombudsman, does he covers the new media or is only cover the traditional media? If he does, then there should be a process for anybody to lead to go and complain if a reportage has adversely affected him or her, or if a reportage is quote and unquote not in national interests. I read a particular post by one of the opposition political parties, although almost attacking our institutions, that after the release of the certificates from Chicago State University, what's really going to happen to the country? And he was able to analyze that, and he was casting aspersions on national institutions that they are not doing their job well. That is not acceptable. Because at the end of the day, what you are seeing, what you don't know, those institutions already, they know. And they don't want to join the fray. So that they don't necessarily hitting up the polity. So because you have not done the facts finding of that, and so you just come there and somebody collected that material and posted it, and it becomes to go viral. What you are doing, you are destroying the integrity of your country, the integrity of national institutions. Not about yourself, but because you have a name, right? You have been a former minister, and that obviously should be to make you more responsible than others, because you serve this country, and so you could not do anything that will bring your country into opprobrium, and you don't do that. And media, online platforms decided to run away with the and to, post your comments. That to me is not good enough.
But Dr. Akinreti, quickly because we are running out of time, you mentioned national interest, but it does look as if Nigerians are very divided. And the media professionals, the practitioners are also Nigerians.
Absolutely.
And it looks as if national interest is gradually being replaced by group or sectional interest. How has this reflected on the operations of the media?
Badly. And that is exactly the picture I've painted for you. The traditional media, the major one, when you open a newspaper today, or when you listen to a news program or watch a TV show, you can easily decide which either of the blocks the divide they all belong to, right? So you can easily cast your aspersion on that. But if media is truly about verification and justification, which is key to our professionalism, everything we need to do must be in accordance with these two cardinal principles. And once you miss that cardinal principles of journalism, of media studies, you didn't get it right. So, and it's not about you, it's about the credibility of your profession, and ultimately about your country. And that is exactly how, when we teach in classroom, when we teach students, we have to let them know there is something called national interest, something called nationalism that you must uphold at every point in your lifetime. Yes, you need to build your career. Don't build your career on selfish interests, because at the end of the day, it will haunt you.
Okay, quickly before we round off, Prince Adedeji, this is on your purview. The online platform seems to be receiving a lot of. Are we going to see anything different in the next couple of months or years in terms of bringing some sanity to that platform?
Like I said earlier on, I'm very optimistic about that, and that is one of the major responsibility of the guild of corporate online publishers. And I recall that I told you at the beginning of this interview that that is the only recognized organization responsible for activities of online publications. Anything outside that, people should start washing out. I'm very cautious, very careful. So I am optimistic that we will get there one day. I said Rome was never built in a day. It's a matter of time. There was a time in this country, let me say the word, that all what we do is that we use fax machine to send report. At a point in time, we are using telephone. All sort of experiences. So later, we graduated to this idea of using the internet. I recall in those days, if you go outside for any news event, you must go back to your office before you do your story. You write it, call it long and send it through fax. But But these days, you can even be inside the bush or right where you are having your engagement or assignment. As soon as that is finished, you can file your story out.
So even before it's finished.
So that makes the difference.